The second step of the serve is the toss. Now, I mentioned in the stance video that you want to hold the tennis ball in your fingers and not in your palm. Hold the ball in your fingers because that's going to make it easier for you to control the ball when you toss it. What you're looking for when you toss the ball is no spin on the tennis ball. Ball shouldn't be spinning, and the easiest way to get no spin is to hold the ball in your fingers and simply open your hand up when you release the ball. You want to make sure you're not rolling it off your hands because then it becomes more difficult to control. Now, how exactly do you toss the ball? Well, behind me here, I'm in my stance, and to start the toss, my arm is going to come down and then rise straight up. And my arm's going to be pretty straight when it's coming straight up. There might be a slight bend in my elbow, but it looks pretty straight. And then I release the ball at about the top of my head, and again, just by opening my hand up. And then my tossing arm continues to rise until it's pointed straight up in the air after I release the ball. That's another key. Make sure your arm continues to rise after you release the ball. Now, the other question is, how high do you want to toss the ball? Well, you want to put it about 1 to 2 feet over your contact point because that's going to give you enough time to execute the rest of your motion while the ball's in the air. So behind me here from the side perspective, I'm going to toss the ball and we'll put a line at my contact point, and you can see the tennis ball is traveling 1 to 2 feet over that line so that I have enough time to execute my motion and get to my contact point comfortably. Now, where exactly do you want to put the toss? Well, for a first serve, a flat serve, you want to toss the ball so that it's approximately above your hitting arm shoulder. So if you're a righty, it's going to be above your right shoulder and a little bit out in front of your body. Behind me here, we've got Frank hitting a flat serve, a first serve, and it's worth noting that he's hitting to the ad court. And he tosses the ball so that once he gets through his motion and gets to contact, which is right here, the tennis ball and his contact point is just about above his hitting arm shoulder, his right shoulder, since he's a righty, and it's a little bit out in front of his body. Let's look at some pictures of a couple pros tossing the tennis ball. We'll start with Serena Williams, and this picture is of her right after she's released the tennis ball. She's tossed it at about the top of her head just by opening up her hand. And in this next picture here, she's making contact with the tennis ball, and she's placed the toss so that she can hit it when the ball is out in front of her body a little bit and over her hitting arm, her right shoulder. Now let's get in the FYB time machine and check out John McEnroe. This first picture here, he's tossing the tennis ball, and again, this is right after he's let go of the ball at about the top of his head. Now we'll look at a picture of him having continued to extend his arm after he's tossed it, so his arm is now extended straight up, his tossing arm. And finally, we'll go to contact, and again, he's placed the toss so that he can make contact with it out in front of his body and over his hitting arm shoulder, which is his left shoulder since he's left-handed. Let's recap the toss by looking at Oliver Ackley's serve from a three-quarter perspective. Here's Oliver in his stance, and again, he's holding the tennis ball in his fingers. And to start the toss motion, his tossing arm drops down slightly, his arm is pretty straight, and then it rises up. He releases the ball at about the top of his head, and after he releases the ball, his tossing arm continues to extend until it's pointed straight up. Now, Oliver has placed the toss, so if we play it forward, he's able to make contact with the tennis ball a little bit out in front of his body and over his right shoulder, since he's a righty, over his hitting arm shoulder.